Today's lesson is on the second day of power rules, and these get just a little bit more tricky. So first we need to talk about numbers that are squares and cubes and fours. So numbers that are squares are numbers so that when you multiply them by themselves, what you get. So like 1 times 1 is 1, so 1's a square. 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 is a square. 3 times 3 is 9, so 9's a square. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5, 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8, 64. 9 times 9, 81. 10 times 10 is 100. 11 times 11 is 121. 12 times 12 is 144. And 13 times 13 is 169. That's as high as your brain needs to go as far as memorization. But when you see the number 49, you need to know it's a square. When you see the number 25, you need to know it's a square. 4 is a square. 121 is a square. These are numbers that when you see them, you need to know automatically that they are a square. Okay, so let's talk cubes. Cubes are when you multiply a number times itself 3 times. So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. Another way you can do this is on your calculator, you can do 2 to the third power. So if I want to do 3 times 3 times 3, I can do 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. Or I can take my calculator and do 3 to the third and get a 27. So let's go ahead and do 4 to the third while we're here, and that's 64. And let's do 5 to the third, and that's 125. And one more, 6 to the third, and that's 216. Those are the ones that you need to have memorized. So you need to know that 1 is a cube, and you need to know that 8 is a cube, and 27 is a cube. Let's talk about this next one, 64. 64, if you'll notice, is also a square. So just heads up, make sure you know if the question is talking about squares or cubes. Because 64 is a square because it's 8 times 8. But 64 is a cube because it's 4 times 4 times 4. We'll do a couple fourths. These get really big really fast. So 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. And you can still use your calculator and just do 2 to the fourth. And that gives you 16. 3 to the fourth is 81. And 4 to the fourth is 256. And that's as high as we'll go. So 81 and 256. Now if you'll notice these fourths, 16 is also a square. 81 is also a square. So make sure that you know if you're talking about squares or fourths. 16 is a square because it's 4 times 4. 16 is a fourth because it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so now we're going to simplify. When I teach this, to make it make sense, I'm going to teach it like we're hunting. And when you're hunting, there are different seasons for when you can hunt different animals. There's deer season and turkey season and dove season and all these other seasons. So the square root or a cube root or a fourth root, that tells you what season you're in. Well, right now, all the ones on this page are square roots. And I'll show you what a cube root looks like in just a minute. So we are hunting squares. And when you see a square, you're going to circle it, and then you're going to shoot it. So 36 is a square. So I circle it, and I shoot it. What is the square root of 36? It is a 6. Nothing left underneath the root. It was like a 12-point buck, and we shot it, and we drug it to the truck and drove it home. 25 is a square. Circle it, shoot it, gives me a 5. 64 is a square. What times what gives you 64? 8. So when you shoot it, it becomes an 8. 100 is a square because it's 10 times 10, so when we shoot it, we get a 10. 4 is a square. Square root of 4 is 2. 81 is a square. Square root of 81 is a 9. 16 is a square. Square root of 16 is 4. Please don't panic when you see a fraction. Just shoot the top, shoot the bottom. Square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 49 is 7. Same thing here for number 9. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 25 is 5. And don't forget about cute little 1. Square root of 1 is 1. Now that's super easy. So let's crank it up a little bit. This is another way to write square roots. So when you have a power that is a fraction, the top of the fraction is the actual power. The bottom of the fraction is the root. So this is 25 to the first power, but then that's a square root. So this is a square root of 25 to the first power, which is 5. This is the square root of 9 to the first power, which is 3. This means the square root of 100, which is 10. This means the square root of 9 over 4, which is 3 over 2. Now, if you can figure these out without writing the square root, that's fine. So this means the square root of 49, which is 7. That means the square root of 1, which is 1. The square root of 64, which is 8. The square root of 25 over 36, which is 5 over 6. The square root of 1/9, which is 1/3. The square root of 1 over 81, which is 1/9. The square root of 49 over 64, which is 7 over 8. And the square root of 4, which is 2. So again, this is your power, and this is your root, square root. Okay, so everything we've done has been square roots, so like turkey season. So now we're going to change seasons. We're going to go to deer season. So the way that you would read this is the cubed root of 8. So I'm now looking for perfect cubes. So the cubed root of 8 is 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Go back and look at your list. Your cubes for 1, 8, 3 cubed was 27, 4 cubed is 64, 5 cubed is 125, and 6 cubed is 216. So 125 is on my list, and the cubed root of 125 is 5. 64 is on my list. Remember, he's on a square list too, but this is the cubed root of 64, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is a fourth root. We've changed seasons, so I'm not hunting these numbers anymore. The fourth root of 16, my fourths are 1, and then 2 to the fourth is 16, 3 to the fourth is 81, 4 to the fourth is 216. 16 is a fourth, and the fourth root of 16 is 2. Okay, changing seasons again, we're back to cubes. This is the cubed root of 27. Remember, power over root. The cubed root of 27 is 3. The cubed root of 8 is 2. The fourth root of 81, here are your fourths, 1, 2, 3. The fourth root of 16 is 2. Okay, write using exponents. Well, remember the whole power over root. So the cubed root of 125. Well, 125 is on my list of cubes, and the cubed root of 125 is 5. So both these suckers with a 25 are out. So I have a 5. Now remember, this is r squared and then cubed root. Remember, it's power over root. Well, your power is a 2 and your root is a 3. So it should be r to the 2/3. So not that. It should be this, power over root. And then s. Now s doesn't have a power. So why? Why doesn't it have a power? Well, because his power over root would be 3 over 3, which is 1. And then this t, his power is a 4, and his root's a 3. Okay, so apply that knowledge to number 2. So the 4th root of 16. Well, the 4th root of 16 is not a 4. The 4th root of 16 is a 2. And then this is going to be power over root. So this would be 3 over 4. So I like that. Y would be 5 over 4. I like that. Z would be 8 over 4, which would become a 2. Okay, so these are the tricky ones. This is the last little bit we have to, almost the last little bit we have to talk about. Okay, so what is the rule when you have a power to a power and you multiply? So I need to do 1/2 times -4. Well, my little trick works here. So 2 goes into -4, -2 times, and -2 times 1 is -2. Okay, well, what does that mean? That means move him to the bottom because he's unhappy. There's your answer. So you see how your rules from yesterday are coming back into play. And again, the same thing here. You have a power to a power, so I'm going to multiply. My little trick works here. So 4 goes into -16, -4, times 1 would be -4. Now move him and make him happy. Okay, power to a power, so we're going to multiply. 3 goes into 9, 3 times. 3 times -1 is -3. Unhappy, so move him, make him happy. Now on number 4, my trick does not work because a 6 will not go into a 3. But I still need to multiply my powers. So what I'm going to do is 1/6 times 3. It gave me a decimal. So then I go math, fraction, and it gives me a 1/2. So this is x to the 1/2. Okay, well, what did that mean? That didn't mean move him. He's not negative. Remember, that's your power, that's your root. So my power is a 1, but my root's a 2. That means the square root of x. Okay, now these are awesome because these you can do completely on the calculator. Do you see how there are no x's in number 1, 2, 3, or 4? When it is all numbers, you go straight to your calculator. You just have to be able to type it in right. So if you miss these, that's on you because your calculator is going to do all the work for you. So 1 divided by 27 to the. Now you have to put your to the in parentheses. You also have to put your 1 over 27 in parentheses. -1 divided by 3. Answer is 3. Now here's what your calculator is doing. Remember, this is power and this is root. So this is the cubed root of 1 over 27, all to the -1. Well, the cubed root of 1 over 27 is 1/3. And then if I raise that to the -1, that means move it. So that's why it's a 3. Okay, so looking at number 2, 1 divided by 16 to the -1/2. 4. Okay, now let's look at number 3 and let's see if we can do number 3 without a calculator. So I have a 36. This is saying that 1/2 says square root it, because remember that's power over root. And then there's a -1 out here. This is after you square root it, move it. So that's a 6 to the -1, which means move it. So it would be a 1/6. To do that on my calculator, I do 36 to the negative 1/2, hit enter, gives me a big ugly decimal. So then I go math, enter, and that gives me 1/6. So if you want to do the same thing for this one, let's do it by hand first. Remember, that's power over root, so that's the square root of 1 over 25. Nobody's negative, I don't need to move anything, so that would be a 1/5. And if you wanted to do that on your calculator, anytime you have fractions, I strongly suggest you use parentheses. And then I go math, fraction. Okay, so let's try some on your own. So the cubed root of 8 is 2. Well, they all have 2, so that doesn't help me. And remember, it's power over root. So this would be power, so 2 over 3. So I don't like that. I like that. He's weird and he's weird, so I'm liking B. But why is the y a 1? Well, because it's 3 over 3, so that'd be a 1. And this would be 4 over 3, so I like that. I'm liking B. Those are super, super simple. Okay, now number 2, this is not one you can type into your calculator because it has an X in it. So this one you have to deal with. When you have a power to a power, you multiply. My little trick works here. 2 goes into negative 2, negative 1 time. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Negative power means he's unhappy, which means you need to move him to the bottom. Number 3, there are absolutely no X's in this problem, so we can type it straight into our calculator. You just have to type it in correctly. 2. So practice your rules, and the better you'll get with them.